Well, welcome to an edition of Gone Again. You know, Linda and I have had an interesting life. When we were young, we sailed a small boat that we restored. We sailed it to the South Pacific. We've lived in interesting places. I've had a lot of interesting and rewarding jobs. I never made much money, but Linda and I have always done what we wanted to do, and on a limited income. And one of my subscribers suggested that I share how we did that. So if you're interested, stick around. Well, to get started, I guess I better tell you a little bit about myself. I started out in a family that was really poor. My father was a teenager during the Depression years and left home at 13 to join the circus. Literally he did, just so he wouldn't be costing, he had 9 brothers and sisters, and it was just so that he wouldn't be costing the family money, you know. His father was disabled and they didn't have any money to begin with. But when I was born back in 1950, in the dark ages, we were broke, and my father had bought some land out in the country, and all the money that he had went into making that payment, you know, that mortgage payment. And he would drop my sister and I off along the highway, and I was about 7 years old at the time, and she was a few years older. And we would get out of the car with a burlap sack, and he would drive down the highway a little ways and park on the shoulder of the road, and we'd walk along picking up pop bottles and beer bottles for the deposit. Yeah, a pop bottle was worth 3 or 4 cents, and I remember a beer bottle was worth 2 cents. We didn't like the beer bottles too much. We would take those bottles into town and cash them in for the deposit, and then we'd buy some bread and maybe some vegetables. And, you know, pretty broke. But my father told a lot of really wonderful stories about his growing up years, and he used to tell me about it all the time. He talked about all the different jobs he had during the Depression. He talked about being a hobo and riding the rails and traveling around the country. He talked about joining the 3 C's and the skills that he learned. And he went from the 3 C's directly into the U.S. Navy as a Navy Seabee, and he told me about his experiences during the war, and he told me about different countries and traveling. He instilled in me a sense of adventure that I never could shake. And you know, it led me into kind of the life that I desired and I decided to pursue. We traveled around a lot when I was a kid. I mean, I went to 5 different schools in 4th grade and 4 or 5 different schools in 5th grade and a couple schools in junior high, and I did get to spend all of my high school years in one school. But I was always wanting to get out and do something, and during high school I was skipping school. Starting when I was 14 years old, I started skipping school a lot. It was never to sit home and smoke dope like kids might do nowadays. It was always about some wild adventure, and sometimes I'd get my friends in on it, and you might see some comments on this video from them. But it was always to do something. It was a camping trip or a long drive to some place we weren't supposed to go to, or it was hitchhiking into San Francisco, or hitchhiking to Santa Cruz and going surfing or something, you know. But all during high school I wanted to be out, and I had great friends and we had a lot of fun, but I just wanted to be out on my own and doing something. During high school I took this vocational automotive class, and right after high school I graduated on Saturday, and on Monday I went to work in a Volkswagen garage as a mechanic, starting mechanic. And I was so happy. But after a couple of months of doing that, I looked around me and I saw all these older guys. They were all older than me, and they're wearing greasy coveralls. And I had asked my boss, you know, what vacations were like. He says, well, you get 1 week a year paid vacation. And that hit me so hard. I was thinking, is this it? So the rest of my life, I work 5 days a week and I get 1 week's paid vacation a year, and all my adventuring just poof went away, and it scared the hell out of me. It really did. And I made up my mind that I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that I wasn't going to spend my life like that. I think a lot of people are taught that that's what they have to do. You know, you may go to college, you may get a really high-paying job. It may be a job that you like, or it may be a job that you hate. But the thing is, we're all kind of taught that that's what we have to do. You have to get a job, and you got to treat it like it's your business, and you have to work that job relentlessly, and your employer gets to call you on the weekends and talk to you about your job, and you do that all your life, and then when you turn 67, you can retire and do something? What? By the time you're 67, you're old like me. Things are starting to slow down. So I couldn't let that happen. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I knew I had to do something different. I went off to college, took some student loans, learned to fly, went to a flight college in Eastern Washington, and got married young, started racking up bills. And luckily my first wife was smarter than me, and she realized we were too young to be married. She's a nice girl. And we got divorced, and I started racking up more bills. I had a new car, I had a new motorcycle, new color TV, you know, new stereo, new furniture. We didn't use credit cards back then. We kind of went to these little savings and loans like Finance Factors, and Finance Factor was one of them. And you just, if you wanted to buy something, you'd just walk in and they'd give you a loan. You know, 15 minutes later, you're walking out with the money to buy whatever you wanted. So I racked up a lot of debt. And I would look at my paycheck and I would say, well, after I pay my rent and buy some food and buy gas and stuff, I've got X amount left, so I can buy something else. And I was young and stupid, and that's what I did. Then, one day it occurred to me, I'd been going through some more problems, and I realized that I wanted to leave town, go do something. I wanted to go travel, and it occurred to me that I couldn't go anywhere. I had to pay these bills. I was stuck. So what I did is I sold everything. Sold everything. Some of the things I was able to sell for what was owed on them. Other things I had to stick around and pay off. But I did. I got rid of every single debt I had. And then I started putting some money aside. And when I got some jingle in my pocket, I hitchhiked out of town. It wasn't too long after that I met Linda. And met her in Hawaii, and I remember we were sitting down by the ocean. We were in our young 20s, and we were talking about life. And we had a lot that we agreed on, and one of them was that we were never going to be in debt. And that's what started this, because from that day on, we were never in debt, except for one thing, our mortgage. But I look upon we didn't always have a mortgage, but sometimes we did. But a mortgage is more like an investment, because when you buy a house, you usually sell it for more than you paid for it. And a mortgage is something that's easy to get out from under. All you do is sell the house. So when we decided to leave and go somewhere, we would just sell the house and go move somewhere else. But a lot of that time we lived on a boat. We raised our kids on a sailboat, big sailboat, just had a great time. But what made it so that we could live a life that we wanted was the fact that we went through life without debt our entire life. We never bought things on a credit card that we couldn't pay off at the end of the month. Don't ever buy something on a credit card like electronics or something like that. Don't ever do that. Only if you're going to use a credit card, you use it for food and gasoline, and you pay it off at the end of the month. But because of that, we were able to move on whenever we wanted to. If we got tired of where we were living, we could just move on. If I got tired of a job I was working, I could go on to something else. I always took jobs that were interesting to me and jobs where I could learn things. I became a shipwright, learning how to repair boats. I loved wooden boats. I became specialized in the Seattle area in rebuilding wooden boats. I loved it. I had a lot of different jobs. I became a pilot. I flew volcano tours. I already had a private pilot's license. I went ahead and got my commercial license and flew tours in Hawaii for years over the volcano. I just had a lot of fun. As long as I was enjoying a job, I stuck with it. As long as I was learning on the job, I stuck with it. When the job got to be a hindrance in some way, or if it was just not pleasurable to go to work, I could move along. And I could do this because I didn't have any debt. People couldn't understand how I could do that. They were all stuck in their jobs. They had payments on 2 cars and payments on this and huge credit card balance, and they're on with their home payment and stuff, and they would buy big fancy homes with huge mortgages. I have friends today that are still paying mortgages that are same age as me, and they never understood how Linda and I could do what we did, and it's because even though we didn't make much money, we weren't broke like that. I think the highest paying job I had was the one I just retired from about 7 years ago, and I just barely made $50,000 a year when I quit. That's nothing nowadays, nothing at all. We always bought used cars, sometimes very used. I bought one on the island of Molokai in Hawaii that used to belong to she was referred to as a kamikaze driver. I don't think there was a spot on it that wasn't dented. I had the rear end, the rear axle was canted sideways in it, so I put the bumper up against a tree and pulled it straight with a come-along. That was in my younger days. But I've never made a car payment because of that. Well, a couple of times we borrowed a couple $1,000s because we'd buy a little better used car, and then we would just concentrate on paying that off. That did happen a couple of times. But most of the time we just bought used cars and, you know, took what we got. Most of the time they turned out okay, and sometimes they didn't. But we never had a lot invested in them either. And here's a tip for you too. If you find yourself in debt, the way that I paid off my bills would work for you too. And I've seen this done, I've seen this laid out with diagrams and everything else, but it was just, to me back then, it was just common sense. What I did was I paid off my smallest bill first. I concentrated on it and put all my money into paying off that small bill. And when it was paid off, it gave me extra money to put into the next bill. In the meantime, I'd be making not just minimum payments on the others, but minimum plus a little, you know, if you want to make some progress. But I always paid the smallest one off first in line, and by the time I got to the biggest bill, then I was able to pour all my funds into that one to pay that one off. And that's, nowadays, you can look that up, and they've got a name for it, I don't know what it is, but back when I was in my 20s, it was just a common sense thing to do. So it doesn't matter if you're working a job that you really love, maybe you're helping people or helping animals or something like that. That's a wonderful thing, and that is a good goal in life. But if you're looking for freedom, even if you are working one of those jobs, don't go into debt. Don't buy some big fancy house just because you can. Just keep it simple so that you're always able to just break the ties and go do something else that you want to do more, something you want to do better. Maybe you get tired and you want to move on to something else. You can't do that if you're in debt. I didn't mean to be giving advice. Basically what I wanted to do was just tell you what worked for me and Linda. And we've had a great life because of the fact that we've been free all the time. And even when I retired, the guys I was working with, they were going, how can you retire? You know, don't you need to stay and make some more money and put some more money in the bank? I told them, I says, no, I'm debt free. I don't need more money. I'm going to be fine. And we're fine because we're debt free. Anyways, I hope this video helped you out. I hope you found some useful information in it. If you're my age, probably not. But if you're 30 or younger, I'm sure you can use some of this. I hope you can. Anyways, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you will. The subscriptions are what really helps promote this channel. And comments promote the channel. When YouTube sees more comments, they'll automatically boost the video up. So I'd appreciate comments. If you disagree with me, comment. And if you have ideas, comment. Anyways, we'll see you around.